Hey, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Friday Lunch and Learn sponsored by the DoSpace. My name is Julie, and I will be your facilitator this afternoon. If you did not get the email from me, let me know, and I can email you the files that we're going to be working with. You don't necessarily have to work along with me, but you certainly can. I got a list from the DoSpace about 11:09 to be exact. So if you did not receive those files, let me know, and I would be happy to send them off to you before we start today. This is kind of a new process. We did it a while back where I sent out the files, or the DoSpace sent out the files actually a while back. It was probably about a year and a half ago. And I think it's advantageous for you to have these files, to work along with me, to ask questions, to have me repeat things just in case, because there's a lot going on. These sessions are being recorded, and the DoSpace is posting them to their YouTube channel. So if you would like to go back and take a look at them, you certainly can. If you're having problems locating one, you can either contact myself or the DoSpace, and we can direct you in to the right place. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Power Query. I don't see anybody that said they did not get the files, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring up the files that I sent out to you. Is that what I'm looking for? What happened to it? What did I do? Close it? It must have closed it. All right, bear with me. Okay. So let me go ahead and make this look exactly like yours does, since I closed mine up. What we need to do, what I'm doing is I'm putting all four of my files out in the same area, just like the ones that I sent to you. There they are. So you should have four different files. 2017 ordered data down to 2020 ordered data. Now, what we're going to do is, when you think about the Power Query, if you have not used it before, if you're not familiar with a Power Query, if you think about a query is simply asking a question. So this is very similar. What we're going to be doing is very similar to creating a macro. And what we're going to do is we are going to take the files 2017, 18, and 19, and we are going to place them in a folder. Now, mine is called Power Query Data. However, you can rename yours to whatever you would like, but we need to put the three files in. We need to put three files in a folder, because what we're going to do is we're going to take those three files. We are going to use the data ribbon, and we're going to upload the folder, and we're going to combine and transform the data. So if you have a report that you receive, every month, every week, every year, whatever the case may be, you can use the Power Query to make edits that are necessary, and kind of teach the Power Query what you need done. Therefore, when you receive the new data, it automatically goes through those steps. Now, the key to this is that the 2017, I'm just going to open these and show this to you. Slowly but surely. Every single one of these files have these same fields. So at the top, we have order ID, customer ID, cookies, shipped, revenue, cost, order date, ship date, and order status. This is, I opened up 2017. If I open up, no, I don't want to save anything. If I open up another 2018, if you look at the top, it has those same fields. So in order for this to work, you have to have a template that you're going to utilize, so the data has to be similar in nature. All right, so the first thing I need you to do is to create a folder. So what you can do is you can go up to New and tell it that you want a new folder. And I just called mine Power Query Data. So you're going to want to create a folder for that. Okay, looks like people are finishing up creating their folder. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select 2017, 18, and 19. And I am going to drag and drop them into the Power Query Data folder. All right. So now what we're going to want to do is just to open a blank Excel workbook. On the blank Excel workbook, we are going to go ahead and move from the home ribbon over to the data ribbon. And on the data ribbon, we're going to move over to the get data. So it's all the way over here on the left-hand side. Underneath get data, if you click on the down arrow, you can see that you can import data into Microsoft Excel from multiple applications. Okay. So, I mean, even from a PDF, and people are always amazed when I tell them that, because folks think that they need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and you really don't need to do that. The only thing that you need to do is to have something that is compatible. One of the things that we've looked at in the past is, what if you have like a Microsoft Word folder or Word file? You can convert it to a PDF and then import it into Excel. But going forward with the Power Query, what we're looking for is the From folder. So we're going to go ahead and select From folder. And sometimes it is a little bit slow. Then the next thing that we're going to need to do, speed 3. The next thing that we are going to need to do is to tell it where the files are. Now, mine is kind of deep. That's what I was just looking at. So actually, I'm going to move this to another monitor so it's easier for me to find. So wherever you save this folder to, you are going to want to browse out. And find the folder where this information is located. Okay. So I finally found mine. Sorry, my PC was scrambled. I had an issue with the OneDrive, and when it deleted all the files from my PC and put them in the OneDrive, and when I brought them back down, it brought them back down in multiple versions. I don't even know how to explain it. So that's why it took me a while to find this. All right, so find your folder and go ahead and click on Open. Again, it might take a couple of minutes for this to process. When it's done, what you're going to see is you're going to have 3 files listed here. 2017 order data, 2018 order data, and 2019 order data. So those were the 3 files that were in our folder. What we're going to do is we're going to come down to the bottom, and where it says combine, we're going to tell it to combine and transform data. So in other words, we don't want it just to combine the data, which we could have done, but we want to make some edits so that when we put future files in, it automatically runs through this process. Okay, then we're going to come down and I'm going to click on Order Data. And you can see that it is showing me the 2017 file, which is fine. And we're just going to come down, we're going to click on OK. Now, I will tell you that I have, if you are on a network, then sometimes it takes a little while for this to take effect, just to let you know. All right, so this is what it did. It opened up something called the Power Query Editor. All right, so we have a lot of things going on here. I'm just going to go ahead and move some things around. We have our various ribbons that we will be using. Here is the data. So we have our source name, which is the name of the file. We have our fields: order ID, customer ID, cookies shipped, revenue, cost, order data, ship date, and order status. Over on the right-hand side, we have applied steps. And as we go through and we manipulate this file, it's going to list the steps. So this is much like the query, or much like the macro that I was talking about. So here you're going to see our applied steps over here. If we want to delete one, this is where we'll come over. So if by chance we have an error, you'll have to come over here and just delete it from this list. All right, and I'm just gonna pull that in there. No, here. There we go. All right. So the source name, we do not necessarily need the source name. We already know that this is the 2017 order data. So what I am going to do is I am just going to right click and I am going to delete or remove the column. So you can just click on remove column and it will remove the column. Then you'll note that throughout our data, we have some X's. These were promos that the cookie company put on, and we do not need those. We do not want those in our data. So we're going to go ahead and filter those out. In order to do so, I'm going to come up here to order ID, and I'm going to click on the down arrow. We do have a filter, so I'm just going to go ahead and I am going to pull down to the bottom if we can. There it is. And we're going to take the check mark out of the X's and click on OK. So you want to go all the way to the bottom and filter out those X's. And you can see that over here on the right hand side, we've removed a column and we have filtered a row. Now, the next thing, our customer ID. Obviously, this is not set up in a manner that we can use some of the more advanced Excel features, because we have the customer ID and the customer name in the same column. So we're going to want to split out this column. If you've split columns in Microsoft Excel, you'll note that typically, if you want the column to be in the next column, in other words, where cookie shipped is, that you need to insert a column. However, the Power Query is a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we are going to stay on the home ribbon, and we're going to come over to transform where it says split column. And if you click on the down arrow, you'll note that what we have is a dash separating the customer ID and the customer name. So we're going to use by delimiter. Once the split column by delimiter shows up, what you need to do, or what we need to do, is I'm just going to go into the second box. So it says custom, and then you have a dash in there. We need to ensure that there is a space before the dash and a space after the dash, because that's the way it's set up in that column. You'll note that when you're looking at that dash, it is not flush with the last digit in the customer ID, and it is not flush with the first letter in the customer name. So you need to go in and make sure that you have a space. So what I typically do is I just delete everything in that rectangle. I hit the space bar, then I put in the dash, I hit the space bar again. And we can go ahead and click on OK. Now, when you do that, it gives you customer ID .1 and customer ID .2. So let's go in and edit these names. I'm just going to go ahead and double click on customer ID .1, and I'm going to delete the period and the 1. You can rename that by hitting the enter key. And then I'm going to rename customer ID .2 to just customer name. And I will enter. Just making sure there are no questions. All right, thanks, Benjamin. Okay, so we want to go in and we want to select two columns. We want to select revenue and cost. So I selected revenue, and I'm just going to then go over, and I'm just holding down you can either hold down the shift or the control key, and it will allow you to select both columns. So you need revenue and cost selected. So what we want to do is we want to calculate the profit. In order to do this, we are going to have to add in another column. So I'm going to move from the home ribbon over to the um, give me a second. I just did this. Where are you? Add column. Where did it go? All right. So what we can do is I'm just going to go ahead and right click. Yeah, that's not what we want. Malay, where are you? Add column. I know it's got to be right here in front of me, and I just am overlooking it. Do you see that on the add column? I'm not seeing that on mine. Oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes. Sorry. Thank you, Jan. So we're going to go to standard, add column, but it's not add. What we want to do is we want to go to standard and subtract. That's where I was going wrong. I was trying to add the column first and then do the subtraction. But what we're doing is, and again, kudos to Jan for helping me out with my memory lapse there. What we're doing is we selected revenue and costs, and I told you that we were going to calculate the profit. So we're automatically going to add the column in and have it subtract the two, giving us our profit. So we're just going to go ahead and select subtract. When we do that, it adds the column in at the end. So we're going to rename this column profit. And then once you have renamed it profit, we're going to drag and drop it in between cost and order date. So just click on profit and you will be able to move it, drag and drop it over in between cost and order date. So then we're going to go ahead and we are going to select revenue, cost, and profit. And if you do a right click, we're going to go to change type and we're going to tell it that we want it to be currency. So select revenue, cost, and profit by either holding down the control key or the shift key. Right click, go to change type and select currency. Once you have that done, we're going to go over to ship date and order date, and we're going to have it calculate the number of days that it took between the order date, but by the date that they ordered it and when it was shipped. Now, with this, we're going to tell it to subtract the columns. So what you need to do, and this is very important that you do it in this order, you need to select ship date first and then order date. Once you've done that, we're going to go back over to add columns. And we're going to go over to the from date and time. Click on the down arrow where it says date, and we're going to have it subtract the days. So then it gives me the number of days that it took in between the order date and the ship date. Where it says subtraction, we're going to rename that to days to ship. Then we're going to select order status, and we are going to remove this column. So over on the applied steps, it tells us everything that we have done. So we came in and we deleted the file name. So we removed the first row. We then removed from the order ID the X's, which were promos. We then split out the customer ID and the customer name and put those in two separate columns. We selected the revenue and the cost and calculated the profit. We then selected the ship date and the order date and calculated the number of days it took to ship those items. And then we removed the order date or the order status as to whether they were shipped or not, because obviously if these were ordered in 2017, hopefully they've all been shipped. All right, we're going to move back to the home ribbon. And on the home ribbon, we're going to come over to close and load. And select close and load. So when you scroll down, at some point, I just did a control shift and a down arrow. You can do a control and an up arrow. Or to make sure that all 3 years are there, it's 2020. If you click on the down arrow, it looks like we've got a little bit of 2020 data in here already. I just want to look at that. Looks like just 4. Okay. You don't need to do that. I just wanted to glance at that for a second. So if you click on the filter, you should see technically 3 years, but we see only 4 lines of 2020. So we can leave those in there. That's fine. It tells us over here on the queries and connections that we have 2,483 lines of data. Interesting. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to save this. And I want to save it back into the same area where the data came from. So I'm going to have to go, I'm going to have to do a little bit of work here to find mine again because of the scrambling of my PC. This just happened to be this morning, by the way. And I need to reset it, but I didn't want to reset it until after I had met with you guys, just in case something happened. Oh, it's terrible, isn't it? Technology is great, but only when it's working to your advantage. Oh. See, all of this stuff should be in my DoSpace folder, and it just put everything everywhere. So, oops, I don't want Power Pivot. That's what we're doing next week. Power Query. Okay, so I'm just going to call this Combine Data. And I'll save it in the Power Query Data folder. All right, so now that we have it saved, what we're going to do is we are going to remember that we have 4 lines from 2020, which is just fine. We are going to take this data it is already in a table called Power Query Data. We are going to go to the Insert ribbon, and we're going to insert a pivot table. So when you select Pivot Table, it's going to say Power Query Data, New Worksheet. You can click on OK. This should look familiar to you because many of you have been in the Lunch and Learns this month, if not more than that. And we are going to select the profit and the order date. So what this gives us is 2017, 2018, and 2019. With just this data, we're going to insert a pivot chart, and we're going to put in a line chart. Click on OK. You know how this breaks this out into months, quarters, years? Let's just have it look at the years. So I'm going to just leave the years in there. And I'm just playing around with this a little bit. You can leave yours just the way it is if you want to. You definitely don't have to. All right, so here are our totals. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just going to resave this. And I'm going to go back to my folder. So you can leave this up and go back to your folder. We're going to take the 2020 order data and we're going to drag and drop it into the folder. All right. So I'm just going to double click on that to make sure that it's in there. So now we have 2020. Once you have that moved in, go back to your pivot table. To pivot table analyze and click on refresh and select refresh all. Oh no. Like I said, sometimes this takes a little while for it to take effect. Is anybody showing the 2020 data yet? Not yet. Okay. So like I said, depending on your network or your internet speed, sometimes this does take a little bit of time. At this moment, are there any questions? The key didn't match any rows in the table. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Benjamin, I'm looking at your issue first, and then I will answer Jan's question, and we can go to the same spot for both. Uh, so what you'll need to do is just to take the 2020 data and move it into the folder, whatever you named your folder, where your other uh, worksheets are. You're going to want to move that in. Now, going back to Benjamin's question. So I did some Googling. It said to rename this back to sheet one. I don't know if that will make a difference, but let me see. Benjamin, did that work renaming that sheet? No, the 2020 order data. Uh, Well, what I would try to do is just to go through the steps again. Because it's being quite slow, and I noticed that my network was running really slow this morning too. See, mine isn't populating yet either. Typically on an individual network, it doesn't take this long, but it could have something to do with my computer issues this morning. Has anybody's populated? Not seeing anybody jumping up and down. All right, folks. Well, hopefully you get that to populate. It should. If you don't, or if I can figure anything out, Benjamin, with why you're getting that error, I will certainly send out an email and let you know. Next week, we're going to be talking about Power Pivot. So some of the additional higher end functionalities of Microsoft Excel. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad that this week is over. Tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 30s, I think. So our temperature below zero. It seems to be, we made it through the week. But as always, a big shout out to the Do Space for everything that they do for the greater Omaha area. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday for Power Pivot. Take care, everybody.